You had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back, yes. Episode 172. We're back after a wonderful Thanksgiving. We hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving as well. But without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Kellen, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., etc., etc. And all the way from Granite City Studios in St. Cloud, Minnesota, Paul Volta Shield. What is going on there, Shield?
Boy, if you haven't had your fill of turkey leftovers and Thanksgiving leftovers as well, let's usher you into the wonderful world that is cold and flu and cough season. So I've been dealing with a cough the last few days. I've got cough drops. I am not heavily medicated, but I took an interesting cocktail of medicines last night that knocked me right out, apparently, compared to what I had with some ibuprofen and even a little cold and flu medicine. And apparently my wife told me, yeah, that's basically the same thing as taking a Vicodin. So I had a very good night's rest. Let's hope we can carry that over into tonight, at least with another good show after a rough week, we'll say it's been for Minnesota sports.
Yeah, it wasn't great, to say the least. No. It was actually really rough if you're keeping track, which I'm sure the zoners have been. Another thing to bring up, a little bit more of a happier note, I would say. Pick'em has gone very well. Just before the show, make sure to get your picks in for this week.
Those picks in.
Yeah, get them done. Jack Vickers, Eric Jensen are leading the pack with 121 correct picks.
Wow.
We've got, let's see, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 6 more weeks, Voldy. 6 more weeks. So get
crunch time.
In. You know the deal. It's the Zona bundle. You're going to get the works, man. I mean, it's going to be pretty legit. So make sure that you guys are getting those picks in. Thursday game tomorrow, I believe, Seahawks and Cowboys. So get that
a good one.
Get it going. So All right, what we got tonight? Well, obviously, if you've been living under a rock, which, maybe some of us are, just kidding. But the Minnesota Wild get rid of Dean Evason and some of the coaching staff. We're going to be talking about that right away here. Then after that, it doesn't get any better. The Monday night meltdown that was the Minnesota Vikings losing to the Bears 13-12. We'll save it for that. But we do have Infinity Rankings back, and I'm going to be giving you my 6 Infinity Stones of the top NFL teams, top 6. So get ready for that. ARA, we've got a lot lined up. Jaredallen in ARA, I love it. Let's go. We got to check in with Jared, and obviously a lot of NFL, a little bit of NBA. We got it all. So shield shoutouts as always too. So fun show tonight. All right, let's get it going with some Tater Tot Hot Take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, it's time for some Tater Tot Hot Take. Tonight, we talk about the big news. Coming from yesterday, I don't know if I would say I was surprised, but I just knew things weren't going well. The Minnesota Wild were on a 7-game losing streak before they fired Dean Evason. Apparently, they tried everything. According to Billy G, they tried everything, and obviously they weren't getting through to the players, things like that. It got to the point where he technically didn't want to fire Dino, but he had no other choice. The team's supposed to be one of the top teams in the NHL this year, especially. Yeah. And to start off like they did, something's not working, especially when your stars aren't doing as good as you think, like Kaprizov, for instance. So, Voldy, let's just get to the task at hand, and obviously we asked this of the zoners as well. What are your thoughts on the Wild firing one Dean Evason and some of the coaching staff after that? What do you got?
Yeah, I felt like, a decision had to be made, especially with how things have turned out to start the season. Obviously, 14 of the first 19 games have been losses, and 7 in a row just wasn't the right mix to start off the year as well. There have been a lot of questionable play as of late. Goaltending and even the lack of scoring on some nights as well. Kaprizov hasn't been living up to the player that we know that he can be, but things have been slowly but surely starting to turn around a little bit, just a little bit later than usual. At least things have been improving at that point, but something had to change as well. Like you had mentioned too, like it just wasn't getting through to the players apparently, and maybe some new blood on the bench was going to be that key. But I mean, already off to a good start with this new era for the coaching staff as well. I mean, they got the win last night against St. Louis, which was nice to see too.
Right. I mean, that helps, and I think we also know too that I don't want to say fully on Dean Evason, but I also know that some of these guys need to step up too. And I feel like he's been trying to, if you saw a lot of his press conferences, he just seemed like he was out of options. He didn't know what else to do with this team. Right. And granted, he is the head coach, and that's his job, is to get these guys playing better. And it just it wasn't working. And when it comes to this, and obviously Billy G kind of set the standard of it's about effing winning. And when you start off 5-10-1, that won't help. But the Wild bring in John Hines. Obviously, Billy G has worked with Coach Hines. I just realized this now, too.
Yep.
Coach Hines. I'm already sick of it because I'm sick of it.
Kaprizov, if you don't score 30 goals, I'm going to saw your head off with a pencil.
I'm going to stab and jug it.
I'm going to
stab and jug. Oh, this is good. We're going to have a good bit with this, I think, now.
I'm going to snap your head off with a pair of bolt cutters.
Shasisa!
Look, there's C2 flapping around there.
That's going to take some good used to, but we can make a great bet out of this if he stays a while.
Oh, yeah.
So he was formerly with the Nashville Predators. There's some familiarity. I asked this of the zoners as well. What do you think of John Hines? Do you think that he can kind of right the ship a little bit? I mean, hey, the first game, get the win against the Blues, who are a tough team, for the Wild. Not too shabby. I mean, could he be the coach of the future here for the Minnesota Wild? I mean, obviously, after one game, you can't, say, this is going to be great and whatnot. But I think it's got a little potential, don't you, Voldy?
I think it does have potential. I think, obviously, bringing in also with an assistant coach, too, that has been familiar with the system and even some of the young players, too. You bring in Patrick Dwyer as well, who was an assistant with the Iowa Wild team in the AHL as an interim role, but still has familiarity with some of these younger players that have come up in recent years for the team, too. That's where I feel like that's going to be a bigger beneficial role, too, with you have a veteran coach with obviously Hines as well that has been through an NHL season, too, obviously being at the head coaching realm, too, but being able to curb some of these veterans along with some of these younger guys that are trying to make a stamp with this group, too, is definitely something that it does have a lot of potential for sure.
It's got a lot of potential, and it's going to be interesting to see if they make any big deals or something like that. And it's going to be it'll be a transition, but it doesn't. I don't think it's going to be a situation where the Wild are going to sit back and just kind of this is a dead year for the Wild and everything like that, but. It comes down to whether the guys want it or not, and it's changes will be made, and Billy G won't be afraid to make changes, and he tells it like it is, and he put forth a good Wild team these past couple years. It's just they haven't gotten out of that first round. They haven't gone as far as we think that they were going to go. So if they get on a winning streak here, hey, let's go. But it'll be interesting. This is going to be interesting going forward for this Minnesota Wild team. Coach Hines, you set yourself up for some fun, obviously, with our bits on the show. So
compound bow action there.
Let's go.
Legolas.
As you see in the intro, too. So there's a connection right there. So with that being said, we'll just have to keep an eye on things, see how things go with the Wild. And
Lord help us.
I hope Dino finds a good, gig.
I think he will.
I really I do like him. I just think the luck ran out, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
So... All right, well, let's go from one news story to just an absolute I don't even know how to describe it, Voldy, because we're
not good, Bob. Not good.
We were riding the high of the Pasternak Josh Dobbs. And I've been seeing a lot of, memes and things like that after that game, and there's one that says that Josh Dobbs has gone from the Pasternak to the astronaut. So, if you get what I mean, if you add an extra S there.
Clever.
4 see? 4 interceptions for Josh Dobbs. Granted,
it should be one.
One of them.
One legit interception. Like those 3 others that got tipped right into the defender, like that should almost be a turnover on the receiver. That is not Josh Dobbs's fault. He put the ball there. It's not our fault that the receivers couldn't catch water if they fell out of a boat in those situations right there. So like honestly, it's 1 interception. It's not 4. But still not good performance.
The first one, yes, it's on him. The reason why I say that though is because he read the coverage right. It was cover 2. The corner falls back instead of staying up on the flat route. And Jalen Johnson, or whatever his name is, makes the interception. And then the second one, Addison's got to catch the ball. So, there's that. And I think, well, God, I can't. It's so weird because I can't even remember the other two because it was just bad. He didn't look comfortable in the pocket.
No.
He was getting hit, and you know what? I hate to say it, and I've been talking with some people. The Bears defense played really well. I mean, like, I hate to say it. I mean, congrats to Mitch, but they actually played pretty well. When you miss JJ and obviously our guy, you know who it is.
Oh my God!
Kirko, chill. Hashtag no chill. We'll get into that in a second too. It just shows like, hey, you know what? The Vikings, it was great with the Pasternak and everything like that, but I think that we're seeing the true colors of Josh Dobbs, unfortunately.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Defensively, I can't think of anything bad besides maybe the big gain that DJ Moore had, but then again,
on the fourth
you
quarter
can't
drive,
put that, you can't fully put that on the defense when the offense was just so awful. So, the question I asked to you is this, Voldy, and we'll kind of keep going back and forth in this, but you get a bye week, you have time to think it over.
Yep.
Do you put in Jaren Hall or Nick Mullins next game, or do you say, "Oh, we'll just give it another shot with Josh Dobbs"? What do you got?
I mean, honestly, you're going to use this whole rest of this week to really evaluate the playbook, and that's what we're looking at here, especially with O'Connell and the offensive staff. What can we do with this playbook to maximize Josh Dobbs? But at the same time, I'm also looking at what can we do to maximize Jaren Hall, because let's talk about it. I mean, that game against Atlanta, if it wasn't for that, that big hit that he caught and didn't get flagged for, I'm still pissed about as well.
True.
That I think Jaren Hall would still be quarterback for the Vikings right now. And they were rolling on that drive too.
They were.
First drive, lackluster, get the jitters out of the way too. But he wasn't looking all that bad as a starting quarterback there for Jaren Hall too. I think you look at, and that's what they're going to do here this week, possibly into early next week too. What are we doing here to maximize, to make both players as best as possible? And what is more feasible? Getting Josh Dobbs out of this little lull here after a good stretch, I should say back-to-back games where very easy, winnable games, but just couldn't make the plays at the right time. Or do you completely cut the cord and make the rookie the starter, Josh Dobbs the backup, or even Nick Mullins the backup too, and just pack it in for the season, even though they're still in the playoff hunt right now?
They are.
Well, what's going to be better for the team as well? Do you stick with the veteran, or do you go with the new blood and just to see what's going to happen here? I mean, me personally, I think it's too early to make a rash decision right now, because we're only a day and a half removed from the game as well. But right now, I'm still saying that Josh Dobbs is a starting quarterback right now. But I could very well see Jaren Hall getting the start the following week.
Zoners, let us know too in the comments what your thoughts are on the quarterback situation. Let's not forget though, JJ's coming back, and I feel like we need to kind of factor that one in too, because when you have a guy like Justin Jefferson coming back, and that's just another weapon, and I feel like they were missing that ever since the fourth quarter of the Broncos game into this game against the Bears, and it affected them. And with Dobbs, there were some throws he was hitting. I mean, it wasn't like, he's completely off. They got to put in Mullins. After the fourth interception, I was almost like, you might need to. He almost had five. I remember the one that Jalen Johnson, he almost had two, and he just dropped it. But I'm kind of under the impression that they're going to go, at this point in time, they're going to go with Jaren Hall. I'm sorry. I'm going to get really nervous if it's Nick Mullins. Like,
yes,
I don't have a lot of faith in Nick Mullins, and I'm not saying that because, it's just like, he's the career backup and he's terrible. it just doesn't fit. And if you've seen some of the preseason games, and yes, I know it's preseason, but still, I would rather have Jaren Hall play than Nick Mullins. Now, for Dobbs, I wouldn't surprise me. I think they I mean, even though KOC left it open, like, they could make a change. But
Right.
then again, you know, if Dobbs is the better option, go for it. I feel like there should be a fourth option, and I don't know how you feel about this, but you know, if Aaron Rodgers, aka Aaron Rodgers, can get back within that time frame, who's to say we can't put a boot on Kirk Cousins and have him go out there? Come on.
God help us.
Nah, I'm joking. And obviously I'm
That's not happening.
And it ain't going to happen. But
Aaron Rodgers is an extraterrestrial. That's why he's doing this right now.
Apparently, yeah. But he is returns to practice, no added risk. They really want him out there. So, that being said, hopefully the Pastronaut, you know, if he starts, can come back and, you know, get it done and whatnot. I think this is a perfect opportunity. This is great because now they have the bye. They can kind of just like reassess things, not make any brash decisions like you were just saying, Voldy, and go into that game against Las Vegas and you know figure out a good game plan for this team. So now with that loss against the Bears, they should have never lost to the Bears. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Defensively, I'm so encouraged by that defense, man. I mean, Danielle Hunter is making a case for him to be the defensive player of the year, even though Myles Garrett has had a really good season too. So I don't want to throw that on the wayside, but Flores definitely needed help. And he needed it big time from the offense and whatnot. We just Vikings weren't able to get it done, and it's sad. It really is sad from that perspective. But
well, they get the ball back on a turnover.
Yeah,
2.5, 3 minutes left in the game, and you can't get one first down. And I'm gonna use our probably one or two swear words. It was chicken shit play calling. I mean, that's the third time, if not the fourth or fifth time this season, that the offense has not been able, in a crunch situation, to get a first down with the ball with less than 3 minutes left and ice the game. And it continues to drive me mad, and the aggressiveness just continues to fall to the wayside. They don't play with a lead. They are playing scared is the big thing. And I got into a social media battle with somebody about playing scared and not playing with the lead. Like, yes, they have the lead, but they're not playing like it. They're just playing like, oh, well, we're under 500, or, we're not supposed to be good. So we're just going to see what kind of happens. There was no confidence in that final drive. Hence why you only worked off 20, 30 seconds off the clock, a 3 and out, and then have to, pin them within deep. And then ultimately they score the game winner with seconds left. It's just ridiculous that they just did not find any aggressiveness to try to get that first down there to put the ball game away.
Let me add this too. I think there were like 2 screen passes on that drive.
Yes.
And it just like, what are we doing trying to do that? Here's my thought on what O'Connell and the Vikings were thinking at that point. They were scared that Dobbs was going to turn it over. Yeah. I think that is the number one reason why. And I don't.
Probably.
You know what? I really don't blame them. I mean, especially they had a chance to kick a 60-yarder, and we all know what happens with Vikings kickers if they try to do something like that, right? So, yeah. I mean, you kick that. I mean, if you make it, great. But if you don't, you either get it blocked or it just misses. And that's just the thing there, too. And it's a tough situation, but the play calling had to have been better. And I feel like that kind of does fall on KOC a little bit. And, it's something that they need to address. And granted, Alexander Madison was running the ball well. Thank God. It's about time. Mm-hmm. We need a little bit more from Chandler, too, so let's not forget that. But let's go to the Bears side for a second here. Bustin Fields looked like a bust. I'm sorry.
Yep.
He looked like a bust. The 2 fumbles that he had, you can't. If you were playing the Niners, if you were playing the Eagles, they would destroy you on that. I mean, it's that simple. Voldy, I mean, from watching that game, granted, Florida's defense very tough to defeat. Don't get me wrong, but the fumbles totally on Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Does this solidify that the Bears are probably going to take a quarterback round 1 next year, or first pick next year? Who knows where they'll end up, but what do you think on that?
I don't know if the first pick, but they're definitely in the market for a quarterback, I think, just based off because that's how much of a snoozer that he has been there with that Chicago offense over the last couple of years, too. I mean, that first drive that, Fields had, I mean, he was slinging the ball around and he got it down the field, just couldn't finish. I think ultimately that's what separates him from a lot of other of the younger struggling quarterbacks or those that have made that next step is being able to finish those drives. Sure, the line's been kind of spotty. Receivers have been spotty as well. But at the end of the day, if he can't make the play, he can't make the play. And that's where this, this front office for Chicago's going to have to take a serious look. Do you even try and shop, Justin Fields to maybe move up in the draft? Or do you just straight up go and grab, potentially Caleb Martin or Drake May or I should say Caleb Williams, if he decides to come in, or Drake May as well. Whoever's going to be that number 1 quarterback, do you go after him, or do you maybe take a chance in like 2nd, 3rd round, maybe later, or try to steal another first-round draft pick from somebody and make that next move too? There's a lot of situations that could prevail itself here as the season moves along. But if Justin Fields can make a move, can at least put a few games together here and maybe snag a couple of wins here in the back half of the season, I don't see why they don't try at least wait one more year. I don't know.
We'll see. So the Vikings, obviously bye week. I mean, actually, it's kind of nice so we don't have to deal with torture again.
Yep. Thank God.
But, we're moving on, and obviously we'll be talking more next week on the game against the Raiders. So,
God.
All right. We're sticking with the NFL for Infinity Rankings. I'm going to give my updated Infinity Rankings for tonight, and there might be some head scratchers. I feel like this is a pretty good list. I will say, if I say so myself. But, it might surprise some people too, because, there's some teams that you could say that, why don't you have this team up there? Why don't you have that team up there? There's a lot to be said here. So, without further ado, it's time for some Infinity Rankings.
While many have power rankings, none have captured them all. It's time for Matty C's Infinity Rankings.
All right, the stones are placed, and gosh, it's just so cool. It's like, this is huge, man. I tell you, it's just awesome. But
Big boy
without
money.
further ado, I will set the gauntlet down. I will not try to snap people out of existence. It's okay. Here are my Infinity Rankings, and you will see it up there. Take a look.
There it is.
So, I'm going to keep it up here just so... can you see it? Can you see it?
Yeah, I can. Okay. I'm exaggerating.
Because I'm trying something new here, so I don't have to, flip it all out, So, anyway, if you can see it, great. If not, well, I can make it bigger from there. So, starting off with number 6, the Dallas Cowboys. Now, why do I have the Dallas Cowboys up in this Infinity Rankings? Well, they have one of the top defenses in the NFL. Like it or not, they've played some bad teams, but also they're beating the teams that they should beat. They're not losing in those teams. Dak Prescott has been playing pretty well. Don't get me wrong there. CeeDee Lamb has been one of the top wide receivers. He's probably top 3 wide receiver in the NFL right now. behind Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill. So I got the Dallas Cowboys at 6. I'm not a big Cowboys guy, don't get me wrong, but I think they deserve to be up in the top 6 just because, they got a good defense, but, the fall's coming at some point. So that's why I haven't pushed them up more. Number 5, let's go with the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins, I feel like they can score on anybody. Anybody. Mike McDaniel has done an unbelievable job with that offense, but the unsung heroes are the defense. Unfortunately for the Dolphins, Vic Fangio is the defensive coordinator, Voldy, for the Dolphins, and Jalen Phillips unfortunately tore his Achilles. People need to stop tearing their Achilles, for goodness sake. But he's out for the season. He was instrumental in their success. They have Bradley Chubb. He's on a tear. Jalen Ramsey's been really. You have Xavier Howard still there. That defense is good. Wilkins is a great player. Baker. So, the Dolphins look pretty good. That's why they're up at 5. I like what I see from the Dolphins, but again, maybe the inexperience might come back to bite them. But we'll see. Tua's playing well too. So Tyreek's been amazing. So we'll give him that. Number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs. Munson says tough to see before I get into that. For Dallas, I assume. Unless you completely disagree with this list, please. Let me know. I'd be curious to know. Shout out to the Wolves. They've been on a tear too. So, without Ricky Rubio, I might add. So number 4, the Chiefs. I don't love the Chiefs enough to put them even up in the top 3. I've seen some of their games, and Mahomes doesn't. Granted, he's still Patrick Mahomes. He's tough to see the graphic. Well, why don't you just say that in the first place, man? Come on. All right. So, anywho, let's just do the normal. Hello. This is what we got. Cowboys, Dolphins, Chiefs. The Chiefs. I don't know. I really haven't loved what I've seen from the Chiefs. Granted, I still think they're a top team. Their defense is pretty good. I like what I see there. But their offense just seems so out of place. They don't have a number 1 wide receiver they can really go to, even though Rashee Rice has done a great job. Everyone's been keying in on Travis Kelce. But I would say that there's some teams have kind of exposed them. And granted, the Broncos finally beat them, even though that was a game that the Chiefs lost themselves. I don't believe in the Chiefs right now. I don't think they're ready for what's to come later on here. But then again, a lot of people said they wouldn't do anything last year, and they won the Super Bowl.
What a Super Bowl! Yeah,
we'll see. They'll probably bounce back, but I have them at 4 right now. Number 3, I really like what I've seen from the Ravens. The Ravens defensively are pretty solid. I really like the way that they've incorporated many receivers. You have Odell Beckham, Zay Flowers, for instance, has been really good, a real catalyst. Gus Edwards running the ball, and it's not just Gus Edwards. It's like Justice Hill. It's that Keaton Mitchell, who's been playing pretty well too. They have a good backfield. They have solid wide receivers. Rashad Bateman's been getting in on the action too. You lose Mark Andrews, but they found a way. They've found a way to get it done. So I gotta put the Ravens up there. I think the Ravens are pretty good right now, and I think they'll make some noise. Number 2, I have the 49ers. The Coach Payne's Niners, they're looking pretty good. Pun intended. Brock Purdy has kind of bounced back after the game against the Vikings. He's done, and the Bengals. They really didn't play well. And now they're starting to look like the team that, we saw these first few weeks. So the Niners defense has played exceptionally well, and they're going to be tested this week against that number one team that is up there, the Philadelphia Eagles. But the Niners can prove themselves by being a top team if they take down those Eagles. And I think the Eagles are vulnerable. And granted, I mean, a lot of these teams are, but the Niners are starting to kind of, they're getting healthier. You got Debo back. Trent Williams is back. You have McCaffrey, who's been on a tear as well. So they're going to be a team that you're going to see in January, that's for sure. Number one, the Eagles. It really wasn't that tough just because they've won the games that, you'd think that they may lose. The Chiefs, they went in and they beat Kansas City. They were down 17-7. They got the job done against, Kansas City, and they proved to those Swifties that, hey, you're still not as cool as you think you are. But the Eagles look good. Jalen Hurts is playing at an MVP level. He went, they went toe-to-toe with the Bills, who was a really good offensive team. And the Eagles looked bred for another Super Bowl run. And the only team that I could see, that or them being defeated by is the 49ers.
Yep.
That starts this upcoming week. It's going to be a great game. Can't wait to watch it. I don't know who will win, but it'll be a good game. So, Eagles, Niners, Ravens, Chiefs, Dolphins. Those are my 6 Infinity Stones for Week 13. Zoners, Voldy, what do you got? What would you change?
I mean, the only real question marks that I have it's going to be 3 through 5 with the Ravens, the Chiefs, and also the Dolphins as well, because especially with 3 and 4 there, because I feel like at the end of the day, which defense is going to make the biggest play when it needs? I think it's still going to be Kansas City with Chris Jones, a very experienced group they have defensively as well. The Ravens, they're kind of on their way, I feel like. They've got some playmakers defensively, but I feel like they're still going to find ways to maybe have to, shoot their way out of a situation here with it being, an offensive onslaught as opposed to a defensive struggle in some of these games. Because, once it comes to playoff season, if your defense can't travel, then unfortunately you're not going to go very far in the postseason. The Dolphins, I hate to say it, I think they deserve a little bit more credit. Four might be the spot where I would put them. I think with Kansas City, they still have a little bit more left in the tank. So I'd probably go Kansas City 3. I'd go Dolphins 4, and then I'd put the Ravens at 5. Even though those 3 right there, it's a bit of a toss up there. I feel like, especially with the Niners at the 2 spot, that's about as good as they can get right there. But behind the Eagles, they beat the Eagles. I mean, they're obviously going to be number 1 for sure. I mean, ever since they got Chase Young from the Washington Commanders there, they've averaged, what, 4.5 sacks a game, if not 5 sacks in like the last 4 or 5 games since getting him. So they haven't even missed a beat. If anything, they've jumped another head forward, especially with that defensive line that they've got. They can't be stopped in any regard to. Offense continues to, get what it needs to out of there. It'll be very interesting to see with that matchup coming against, the Eagles coming up here very soon too. So I think overall the list looks pretty good. Couple of tweaks here and there though from my side.
I can't really argue with that because it was tough kind of parsing each team. That's for sure. So the teams that are left out, the Lions for one. That defense has really been crapping the bed. They don't look the same. Offensively, I thought the Lions were going to have like the best offensive line in the game, but so far they haven't looked great. The Packers went in and just slapped them, punched them in the face, and left Thanksgiving with a win. And
Yeah, that was a bad loss.
it's just they seem out of sync, and I feel like it's due defensively. And if you make Jordan Love look like an All-Pro, I mean that just tells you there's something wrong, and they need to fix it, and they need to fix it fast because
Yes.
the Lions have a history of
Tanking.
So we will see. They play the Aints this upcoming week at New Orleans. So if there's an upset, I'd be for it because that just only helps our Minnesota Vikings. So that being said, here is the list one more time before we head into ARA. Eagles, Niners, Ravens, Chiefs, Dolphins, Cowboys, and obviously let us know what you guys think. I mean, if you think the Lions deserve to be up there, well, you're just wrong, but we'll just leave it up there for you. So that'll do it for our Infinity Rankings this week. We've got a lot of good ARAs this week. I feel like, there's a lot of Minnesota connection, especially the Golden Gophers lose their quarterback. He's in the transfer portal, Ethan Kaliakmanis.
Oh, darn.
We'll talk about
Trash.
that right away. Jaredallen talks about Kirkcousins. Ooh, that'll be a good one. Draymond doesn't regret choking Gobert. Well, you kind of look like an idiot when you did that. Westbrook won't tolerate fan comments, clearly, because he complains about it all the time. And the Panthers get rid of Frankreich. I have some opinions on that, so we will have a very good ARA this go around, as always, too. So let's get it going with some absurd or approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it is time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, it was announced here earlier this week that Gophers quarterback, Golden Gopher quarterback, Ethan Kaliakmanis has announced that he will be entering the transfer portal after 3 seasons with the Golden Gophers, taking his 2 years of eligibility elsewhere. The redshirt sophomore, well, for lack of a better term, has struggled mightily through this 2023 season. But hey, watch out. The Gophers are going to a bowl game with a 5-7 record. Of course, the quarterback that is with Ethan Kaliakmanis will be taking his talents elsewhere, and not only the only Golden Gopher quarterback that'll be leaving the program. Apparently, a freshman quarterback as well, Drew Viato, is also going to be entering the transfer. But there is some potential hope in the near future that the Gophers have extended an offer to New Hampshire quarterback Max Brosmer, who is the leading passer out of the FCS division of NCAA Division I football. There's some hope. Hasn't been fully, hasn't announced his intention to come to the program, but an offer has been extended. But you look at over the last couple of years with Kaliakmanis as the starting quarterback for the Gophers, do you think it's absurd or approved that the Gophers will be better off without Ethan Kaliakmanis?
Oh, it's hard to say. The whole season for the Golden Gophers, granted, I give them one highlight and one highlight only, beating Iowa finally. So there's that. But
they didn't lose. They didn't lose to Iowa. I'll say that much about that game. So
well,
they didn't win. They didn't lose. I'll say that
they didn't lose. Okay, well we'll go.
They didn't lose.
But granted, it was a horrific season, I will say, under Coach PJ Fleck, and you wonder a little bit. And I'm not like I've always kind of I've been critical of PJ Fleck these past couple of this whole season. I feel like, and I like PJ. I still think that they can kind of bounce back and whatnot, especially when you have the 2 quarterbacks go. But why are they leaving? Is it because of coaching? The culture? What's going on? So there's a lot of factors into it. Granted, I don't know what's what's behind that and whatnot. And obviously you bring up this New Hampshire guy, which hopefully, can bring us some good luck and good offensive play, that's for sure, because even though PJ wants to run the ball, you also have to have an effective passing game. You know the reason why the Gophers were so successful a couple of years ago is because they had solid wide receivers, they had a stellar running game with Mo, and they were able to get it done. They had a good defense. Tanner Morgan looked like, the second coming of Adam Weber. But I just think that you got to have somebody who can throw. And Kaliakmanis, he showed flashes, but a lot of inconsistency with him too. So I'll answer it like this. I think they will be better off with, I'd say it's got my stamp of approval that they'll be better off because if it gets any worse, it's probably going to be PJ's job that goes. So I'll give it my stamp of approval. I think they'll be better off. Voldy, what do you got?
Yeah, I think Kaliakmanis is probably going to excel at either a MAC school or a FCS school, I think, in my mind, just because not a Big Ten quarterback in this day and age, and that we saw with Tua's little brother, that he just became the Big Ten's all-time passing leader as well, passing the likes of Adam Weber as well. The fact that we brought that name up tonight is also fun to hear. But I really think coming down to it, I think the Gophers will be better off. But we did hear some rumblings towards the beginning of the season, or at least the first half of the season, that they're looking at investigations as well with the culture of PJ Fleck and, some allegations along with that too that had kind of come through. Nothing really came out of it. And now starting to see here, obviously, you lose two quarterbacks and one that was your starting quarterback this year. How's that going to play out? How's that going to play into the bowl game too, coming up here in a few weeks' time as well? How's that going to all suit this squad here going into a bit of a turnover, and obviously how that is going to all factor with the program for the future, recruiting wise, who's going to be a guy that steps up and makes a play too. I think the Gophers will be better off. Might be another season or so of more growing pains, but how many more seasons of growing pains is PJ Fleck allowed before the axe comes down and that hot seat comes along with it too?
Yep. It's getting a little warm. That's for sure. So yeah, I don't know. I'll say this. Even though academically they're doing, the reason why that they're in it, I would have declined. I would have just said, no, we're not doing it. I mean, we don't deserve to have a bowl game, for goodness sake, because we're just so bad. I hate to say
it's the recruiting thing. That's all it comes down to. It's like, hey, we made a bowl game this year. You can bring the recruits down. It's like, hey, come check out the bowl game. This is what we do. This is how we travel. Here's all these great fans that came along with us. But at the end of the day, they'll probably get blown out by some school out of the AAC or something like that in Tampa Bay or something. And not even at the footballs. They're going to be playing at Tropicana Field in that freaking cesspool of a environment that they have down there. They'll probably be playing the Gasparilla Bowl or some crap. So,
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Dummy. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the next one, Voldy.
Well, we go from one Minnesota quarterback to another, this time at the professional level, and some potential comments that may lead to dismay within the Vikings organization and the greater alumni that have passed through the Vikings place over a number of years. Former Vikings defensive end and also a semifinalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Jaredallen, made some comments on the Up and Adams podcast earlier today. Talking about that, he thinks that the Vikings should not re-sign and will not be back with the team coming up in 2024. Obviously, coming off the Achilles injury, questioning whether or not you can commit that much money to a player coming off an injury, whether Cousins will be able to make a full recovery, and quote, stating that it is a quote young man's game, among other comments as well, throughout that interview with Kate Adams on the Up and Adams podcast. But, just hearing some of these and even seeing some of the comments from a legend that has been and someone that, we hold in high regard with Jaredallen as well, talking about Kirk Cousins, someone else we hold in high regard. Do you think it's absurd or approved Jaredallen's comments about possibly re-signing or not re-signing Kirk Cousins?
These are two guys that I greatly respect. I really
Uh-huh.
do. And I'm sorry to our guy Jared Allen, but I disagree with Jared Allen. It's all about Kirk Cousins.
You like
And
that? You like that?
I think the Vikings, and you know what? Before I get to that, shout out to the Up and Adams podcast, Kay Adams. We're still open invitation. Come on the show. We're happy to talk Vikings here with
Absolutely.
you as well. So, Kay Adams,
Please do.
here's a plug to come on MinneZona Sports Live. We'd love to have you. Anywho,
Yes.
let's get back to the comments that he made. I don't agree with the comments. I hope Jared watched the game on Monday night because it shows exactly why the Minnesota Vikings need Kirk Cousins. And granted, I do agree with the fact that he said it is a young man's game. Don't get me wrong, it is. It is. But you got to have some consistency, especially with guys, especially with the team who greatly respect Kirko. And not only that, but they do need to look at a quarterback for the future. Don't get me wrong. I think they will in this upcoming draft, and that's down the road here, but I think you have to re-sign Kirk. And it shows the continuity, and it's not like you have to say, well, we're stuck with him for another 2 years. No. Kirko is going to be fine. Kirk wants to be here. He wants to be a Viking. So I say you give him a 2-year deal, bring in someone, have him mentor, go from there. So, yeah, I disagree with his comment. He thinks that he doubts that Kirk will come back, but I disagree. Unfortunately, I disagree. But one thing I'm going to add, I think it's absurd, his comments, but he should be a Hall of Famer. Jared Allen, Hall of Famer, absolutely applause.
Yes, sir.
I may disagree with your opinion on the Kirk Cousins thing, but
Yep.
I still love Jared Allen. So don't get me wrong. We love Jared Allen. So absurd comments, but he should be a Hall of Famer. Voldy, what do you got?
I mean, I definitely disagree with his comments. I think it's absurd as well. Yes, it is a young man's game, but, if Kirk Cousins is still healthy and he's putting up the numbers that he did up until the point he got
Top
hurt, Kirk Cousins is an MVP candidate. He's my MVP. That's for certain as well. And I made that statement at the beginning of the season too. I just think that his comments, yes, there is some validity to that, but the Vikings are not in a situation right now where they can just turn the offense and turn the playbook over to a young punk and let him go as well. Unfortunately, that's the way that it has been the last few seasons. They've invested all this money into Kirk and have yet to find a suitable young quarterback to be the guy coming up as well. Tried with Kellen Mond, failed. Tried with Nick Mullins as well, a guy who's been around a little bit. Still have yet to give him anything as well. I mean, the list goes on. There's a number of quarterbacks that have come through the Vikings as well here since Kirk Cousins joined the team and, have yet to give any sort of impression that's saying, hey, if we lose Kirk Cousins here, he's a pretty good backup. I think we'll be just fine. Unfortunately, that's the way that it has been for a number of years as well, probably since the, obviously well before the Teddy Bridgewater era as well for the Vikings. And that's going back a decade as well in time. I don't agree with the comments, and I certainly do think that he needs to be a Hall of Famer. If it doesn't happen this year, I think next year for sure. But I think he's got a pretty strong case to be a Hall of Famer this year.
Oh yeah, and it's it's tough nowadays because I feel like there's I don't know. It's the Hall of Fame inductees stuff. I don't know what goes into the process of who gets in, who doesn't, and all that stuff. But he's he should be. In my eyes, he should be. Yeah, I'm sorry. We still love you, Jared, but sorry.
Just not right now.
Kirko, no, hashtag Kirko no chill. He was throwing up MVP numbers, and we've talked about it at length, so no need to say more. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, we stick with Minnesota, but we're talking about Draymond Green, of course, coming off a suspension, 5-game suspension, where he choked out Timberwolves center Rudy Gobert in a headlock. And of course, that happened back on November the 14th. And talking about how he doesn't even regret nearly unaliving a man on the floor as well in an NBA basketball game. Quoted as saying in his first practice since his suspension, "I don't live my life with regrets. I'll come to a teammate's defense anytime that I'm in a position to come to my teammate's defense. What matters is how the people that I care feel about, how the people I care about feel first and foremost. How are the people that I care about are affected? How are the people that I care about? What do they have to deal with? That's it for me." So with that all being said, considering the moves that Draymond Green has had for the people that he cares about, including so much as showing as much affection by literally knocking them out in practice as well, is it absurd or approved with Draymond Green? Should the NBA take a much closer look at Draymond with his past actions and just boot him out of the league entirely?
Well,
it's a loaded question, I know.
Yeah. What I'm gonna say to that is he probably won't get booted out of the league, but I wish they would take a little bit more. They would take a little bit more accountability and make it known. Stop doing this stuff. This is ridiculous. Look, the way that he handled that situation, especially when Jaden McDaniels and Klay Thompson were going at it, he was pulling Klay Thompson off of Jaden McDaniels.
He was.
And then you have Draymond coming in and trying to choke him out. First of all, if you're trying to choke the life out of somebody here, you know, that just shows like you feel like you're untouchable. And the NBA, I'm sorry, but the NBA is making him look like he's untouchable. He can punch somebody in the face and apparently not have any, you know, not a whole lot of repercussions. Slap on the wrist. No. Don't do it again, Draymond. Seriously. Especially what the comments that he made, he goes, "I stuck up for my teammate." It doesn't mean that you have to go and choke somebody out, buddy. Like, this isn't a hard concept to grasp, Draymond Green. And I used to, and I think I've mentioned this before, I used to be like, you know, I feel like he's the unsung hero for the Golden State Warriors. But, man, he is just acting like an a-hole, man. And it's gotten to the point where the NBA might be forced to do something they really don't want to do. But I think it's absurd the NBA hasn't taken even more action and say, stop doing this, or we're going to force you out. But they're just going to be like, darn it, Draymond, why'd you do that? Slap on the wrist. So it's ridiculous. They should take more action. They should take more action and do something about this instead of letting him run rug shot and just do what he wants, because he can choke somebody out, he can punch somebody in the face just because, and go from there. I just wish someone would go in and punch him in the face. I'm sorry.
Seriously.
I hate to say it, but I'd like to see someone just sock him, see how he likes it, or choke him out. You know, so it just shows that, you know, the NBA makes him look like he's untouchable. So it's absurd on all fronts. And his comments, you know, if that's how you're going to defend your teammate, then that just tells me that you're full of crap. So that's just me. Voldy, what do you think?
I think, well, two parts. One, the fact that Draymond Green says he doesn't have any regrets doing it shows how much of a sociopath that he is. And probably the next interaction that he has that leads to a physical altercation, he will probably slit somebody's throat or shank him in the kidney, because that's the progression level that we're going at with this guy. There is literally going to be a dead body at the end of an altercation with Draymond Green, and it's going to be the NBA's fault. piggyback off of that with Draymond Green and also the NBA. The NBA is a joke of a league within itself, and I really wish the camera quality would pick up here because I want to put this out to the NBA when it comes to your punishment process. Yes, you did an okay job. You should have done a lot sooner with John Morant. You got a serial sociopath that is literally one technical foul away from going postal on an NBA arena and an opposing team as well. You've got the Josh Giddey situation, which is horrifying to even think about to begin with as well. And you got all these other guys. You basically canceled out Kyrie Irving, even though he really did it to himself. He is the Antonio Brown of the NBA and vice versa with Antonio Brown to Kyrie Irving at the same time. Adam Silver in the NBA is a complete joke of a franchise and obviously of a league itself. There is no standard when it comes to punishment, barring somebody like Donald Sterling doing something inexcusable and appalling to begin with. There is no standard when it comes to punishment. You're making it up as you go, slaps on the wrist. I really think Draymond Green should obviously be put into a psych hold for 3 months and just to see and evaluate some of the decisions that he makes, because obviously there are mental health issues when it comes to professional athletes and some of these players as well that go through the rigors of an NBA season as well, off season, dealings with social media as well. But this guy is a straight up idiot to begin with. And the fact that he literally tried to choke somebody out after just a, simple altercation that took place, which he was no part to begin with as well, and he injected himself in the situation, shows how much of an idiot this guy is. I think he should definitely be booted longer than that 5-game suspension that he had.
Well, let's not forget, he's kicking guys in the nuts, too. I mean, he's literally kicking guys in the balls, and it's like, and it's been blatant. It's like Ndamukong Suh from way back when.
He is Dennis Rodman of this generation.
Dennis Rodman,
colored hair and the tattoos and the piercings and all that off the court stuff. He is he is a wild card of a human being.
So that's really all I can really say about that. But then again, we'll see what happens. All right, we're sticking with the NBA, Voldy.
Yeah, sticking with a player that doesn't hold back any of his emotions, and especially when it comes to interactions with fans as well. Russell Westbrook is putting out saying that he will not tolerate fans saying anything personal about him or his family after engaging with a fan in a heated exchange in the midst of a loss against the Denver Nuggets back on Monday night as well. Now, this is not the first time that Russell Westbrook and fans have been caught in between the middle of words between each other as well. Quoted as saying, "It's just unfortunate fans think that they can get away with saying anything, and personally, I won't allow it. I've taken a lot of people saying anything and getting away with it, but I won't stand for it anymore." At this point, barring you going into the stands and knocking somebody out, there's nothing you can really do about it, Russell Westbrook. And I hate to say it too, as much as I'd love to see that Russell Westbrook get up on some, 6'2", 400-pound guy and just boom, just laying his ass out. There's really not much else you can do about it. And is it absurd or approved that should the NBA take a much more strict policy on fan interaction with players? Because there's been times too, obviously players going into the locker room as well. Fans are right up on there. And there was one situation where a fan was sitting out just outside like their way to the locker room, and Russell Westbrook got into it with a guy and had to be physically separated between two people as well at that point. But do you think that there should be a stricter policy on fans and even interaction when it comes to these players at the same time?
Well, I always do think that, especially when you use, especially you're a disgrace of a human being if you use racial slurs and things like that.
Right, exactly.
Talk about one's family and all that. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where I get a little peeved, because every time this situation comes up, it's always Russell Westbrook. It's always something with him, interaction with a fan, things like that. And his press conferences, in locker room interviews, he acts like an asshole. I'm sorry. And he's been very rude to a lot of people. He's been very rude to reporters. He's been very rude to, writers, things like that. And I'm not saying, and I'm not condoning anything that some of those fans, of what they said or have said to him. I'm sure, he has every reason to be upset and whatnot, and, call them out on it. And the NBA should take action, sure. But I feel like some of this falls on him. And I am sick, and I'm sick and tired of some of his press conferences where he's blowing off these questions of all this BS and things like that. And he's just making up all this bullshit. I'm sorry, And it's gotten to the point where this is getting ridiculous. We need to, we need to stop, giving him a pass because he doesn't like something like, like what a ref said or being disrespectful. Next question. I don't want to. No, that's your obligation, buddy. And you got to have a little bit of a better attitude. And I'm sorry, you're not a star anymore. I'm sorry. You are not a star anymore, Russell Westbrook.
Locker room cancer.
Yeah, I am sick and tired of hearing all this, woe is me, and I'm just gonna answer the way I want to answer it just because it's like, I'm sorry, Russell Westbrook, you are not a star anymore. I will say the NBA, yes, stamp of approval, needs to take more action because a lot of that stuff that fans say is ridiculous. And if it's towards Russell Westbrook, I'm going to defend him in that sense. But a lot of this, some of this falls on him too. So right. I will end it with that. So, Foldy, what do you think?
I think this is a twofold situation. I think the NBA definitely should take a stronger look at it because this is not the first time Russ and then other players as well that have caught in between with fans as well that get a little bit closer on the action as well. Try to, maybe throw a couple of jabs here and there. But if you go after a person's family, look, you deserve to get socked in the mouth. I don't care who you are. If you're going to be an a-hole, I'm going to be an a-hole back. That's the law of the jungle right there. And when the lion's hungry, he eats. And this time, this guy's going to be eating a fist or something along those lines. But I'm looking at it from this point too. With Russell Westbrook, yeah, he does get himself into situations quite frequently. Is he the same player that he was 5 years ago? No. Was he the same player 10 years ago? No, not anymore. He's just out here trying to collect a pension at this point. But I fully understand where the frustration comes from as well.
Sure.
I'm not of the mindset that they should just shut up and dribble, but you run the risk as well if you do, egg on the beast, if you will, egg on fans or whatever like that. You deserve all the comments that you get back. But I also see it from the NBA's perspective. Look, it's going to take one guy on a bad night who's having a bad week. He might just say, you know what, to hell with it. I'm going up in the stands and I'm hit anything that moves, anything with a pulse. I don't care if you're a lady, a man, a lady man, a little boy, a little girl. If you got a pulse, I'm swinging and I'm connecting at something like that. We could very well have another Malice at the Palace, any potential situation here in the very near future. Just the way that fans have been able to get away with stuff, especially like when Kyrie Irving came back to Boston and that whole backlash there too. Would not be surprised sometime in the very near future if that does happen. I feel like we've moved away from that standpoint. But again, like I said, it could be any potential night that comes our way that somebody's just having a bad night and just says to hell with it. And the NBA is going to have to deal with the repercussions on that. I think the NBA should take a much stricter look at that, but then that involves the people that run the facilities, that run the arenas, their security, their game day operations as well. There's a lot of moving parts that comes with this, but definitely something needs to be said and done, especially when it comes to how fans can basically get away with anything.
Right. And it's not like, I'm not necessarily saying like, Russell Westbrook, just shut up about this and everything.
No, definitely not. Voice your opinion.
He's right on that front. The thing that bothers me is that some of this, these antics and things like that he does, have to fall on him too. And it's not necessarily what the fans, is saying, personal stuff and, whatever saying to him. But if it's just like, you suck or something like that, like, don't get all up in arms about it. People say that all the time to players.
Yep.
Especially if you're a fan of the opposing team. So if it's something like that, seriously, dude, come on.
I just want to see it. I want to see Russell Westbrook get after one of these people. I want to see him take on some dude 6'5", 450, and he's 5'8", 192 pounds, and just clean this dude's clock. I mean, I want to see it. I want to see it at some point. Just to get it over with. I'm sure he's been wanting to do it for years, but at this point, he's got nothing left to lose. He's got his pension. I don't know if he'll be a Hall of Famer.
Have him and Draymond go at it. I don't care.
Yeah, but Draymond, just go. Just unleash the hounds. Yeah. Royal Rumble. Let it happen.
There we go. WWE. We got your next dream match for you. Draymond Green versus Russell Westbrook. Let's do it. All right, last one, Foldy.
Well, unfortunately, the axe did fall not only for the Minnesota Wild's head coach, but the Carolina Panthers did announce that they have fired head coach Frank Reich less than 24 hours after a heated conversation that owner Dave Tepper and Reich did have, but also following a 17-10 loss to the Tennessee Titans. For the Carolina Panthers, now sitting at 1-10, the worst record in the league, and including 0-6 on the road now. Second time in 2 seasons that Frank Reich has been pulled the plug on in before the end of an NFL season, and that just brings back even more trouble to his resume on top of it all. You look at how things have kind of turned out for Carolina. Sure, they get Bryce Young at the quarterback spot. You get a revamped wide receiver room as well, working in some pieces here and there. Defense starting to put some things together, but unfortunately just not have been able to put it all together. 4 wins and a whole season, especially in a division that was completely wide open at the beginning of the season with the NFC South. But looking at now Frank Reich out, and you throw in, of course, a new head coach with the offense that'll be run by the head coach of being in the special teams coordinator. Now the offense can take hold as well, or at least build up a little bit more confidence. Sitting at 1-10 on the season, is it absurd or approved? The Panthers will finish with 3 wins by the end of the season.
Well, let me preface this by saying Frank Reich, I kind of feel bad for, because the owner that's there in Carolina, I feel like they weren't going to do anything this year. I mean, it's that simple. Even though Thielen said that this is a team that can make it to the Super Bowl, well, that might be up for absurd statement, unfortunately.
Idiot.
But we love Adam Thielen. Don't get me wrong. We love Adam Thielen. But
most absurd statement of the year?
It very well could be. It very well could be.
Put it out there.
And that just gives them an excuse to come on this show. So, hey, Adam Thielen. Yeah. So, the Panthers will finish the season with 3 wins. I'm going to take the under. I think they'll get 2. Let's go with that. I'll go with 2 for the Carolina Panthers. Do people pin this on Frank Reich? I don't necessarily think so, because you said, okay, well, we got the rookie, we got Bryce Young, number 1 pick, not a big deal. We got the wide receivers, and, our offense is okay, but, their run game was terrible. I mean, trust me, I know. I have Miles Sanders on my fantasy football team, but no one cares.
Heyo.
But I feel like they should have given him another year to at least prove a little bit. It's just, I just don't like this whole notion of, oh, we're letting you go if you're just terrible after one. It's ridiculous. Yeah. So, I don't know. I kind of pity him in that sense, but if you're not getting along with the owner, too, I think, maybe you're kind of digging your own grave there. But, yeah, I think it's absurd. I don't think they're going to get to 3. I think they'll get to 2, though. They'll get 2 wins. I'll give them 2. Why not? So, Voldy, what do you think?
Well, looking at the rest of their schedule, here's what they've got. They've got Tampa on the road. They've got New Orleans on the road. Atlanta at home. Green Bay at home. They've got at Jacksonville, and they finish off the regular season at home against Tampa Bay. I could definitely see maybe Green Bay. Something's got to come together there against Green Bay. I don't know.
Fine with me.
Fine with me there. 3 wins going to be, so you're looking at, let's see, you need to get at least 2 more wins in the next 6 games. I'm gonna take the under on that as well. I think they get at least 1 win. Would not be surprised if they take 1 away from Tampa, even with Baker Mayfield kind of revamping himself a little bit there down in Tampa Bay. I mean, they could very well take 1 from New Orleans as well. Wouldn't be surprised there, but I think overall, 2 wins is probably the benchmark. That's just how awful it is of a season they have. I can't even get through a whole sentence.
You're making me.
But another thing, I know. Yes. I'm sorry. I can't help it. I literally went through the whole day not coughing up until like an hour before the show. I don't know what happened. I hate myself too. But looking, another thing with the Frank Reich hiring, they also dismissed running backs coach Deuce Staley and also quarterbacks coach Josh McCown. Now, if this isn't a shot across the bow to say, former players, you can't cut it in a league for the whole season, even after you gave your blood, sweat, and tears for 10-plus years. Josh McCown went probably 30 years in the league. Deuce Staley played a bunch in the league, too, for a number of teams. If this isn't a shot across the bow for players that want to be coaches or stick around with football, I don't know what else this is. And it's unfortunate as well because you see a lot of these former players, they have no direction after they leave the game as well. And they want to get into coaching. They want to be able to impart some wisdom on the next generation. And you see something like this, I feel like Deuce Staley and Josh McCown should get another job somewhere fairly easily. But the fact that they couldn't make it through a whole season might hurt them from getting a serious look from guys that maybe are involved with the game, but maybe didn't play at the NFL level or have been around the game for a number of years, but didn't perform at the highest level, like a Deuce Staley and also a Josh McCown too. It's unfortunate for them, but with the firing of Frank Reich, could be another case of one of those guys where really good coordinator, not a very good head coach. Could be that situation that we're looking at here with them too.
I feel like Deuce Staley's a good coach. I liked what he did with Detroit when they had Williams and even Swift when he was healthy. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, McCown, I'm really not sold on him.
It was his first year as a coach. I mean, he literally just retired, if not last season, the season before. So literally just off the couch and like, hey, come be a quarterback coach. And, it's unfortunate for him.
So, he'll probably get something somewhere. So we'll see. Mm-hmm. Frank Reich, I don't know if he's going to get a head coaching position for a little bit because I think he'll probably be coordinator or a position coach, but I don't know. It just seems like, you should have drafted C.J. Stroud. Well, how are you going to know that? I mean,
And the fact that the Panthers only win of the season, what's against Houston and C.J. Stroud, speaks levels right there.
True. That's true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. That'll do it for Absurd or Approved this week. Great job as always, Voldy.
Thank you, sir.
Shield shoutouts. We got a nice Shield shoutout this week. It's a player that, we know quite well. So very special Shield shoutout tonight. Let's get it going. What's up? Shoutouts.
Shield shoutouts.
All right, Shield, who are you shouting out tonight?
Well, we just have one Shield shout-out on the docket for tonight, but, of course, we do have to wish best of luck in your retirement post-career. Former NFL wide receiver DeSeanJackson, who officially announced his retirement after 15 seasons in the National Football League, has decided to hang him up by signing with the team that drafted him, the team that he made his mark with, that being the Philadelphia Eagles. And, of course, he was at the game, I believe, this past week on the sideline as well, just getting that one last round of applause and everything. But D-Jax finally retiring from the NFL, and that's going to do it for Shield shoutouts this week.
That's hard. Yeah, it's hard to believe he was in the league for that long, 15 seasons. That's very rare for a wide receiver, I might add.
He played with a lot of teams the back end of his career, too. I mean, he played, let's see, it was the Eagles, then he went to Tampa, then he was in Washington, he played with the Raiders, he played with the Rams, he played with the Ravens.
Oh, yeah.
for like 2-3 weeks.
That's
something
right.
like that.
Yeah,
Back when they were like somewhat good. But yeah, he was on a lot of teams at the end of his tenure.
I wonder what he can run in the 40-yard or no.
I'm
he's
sure
still
he can
fast.
still hurt somebody. Yeah, for sure. I think he can still get the job done.
Yeah, definitely. He was a big play wide receiver. I'll say that.
Fun to watch.
He was a burner, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, great job with Shield shoutouts this week, Voldy.
Thanks, sir.
You know the deal. Pick 'em, folks.
Yeah.
We got a lot. There's a lot on the line these last few weeks. So make sure you get those picks in. Enter yourself in to win a Zona bundle. So that'll be awesome. All right. You know the deal, guys. We've got merch. We got sweatpants. I'm wearing them right now. Extremely comfortable. Darn it. But the good news is that they are very, very comfortable. They're $30 plus $5 shipping. So make sure that you let me or Voldy know. We have larges and, well, actually, I think all of our larges are gone. I think we got Yeah. I think we got XL through, I want to say, double XL. So we got plenty of those. So make sure we go from there. And then, Voldy, we have our hats. They are fire, even though the quality isn't show. You know what they look like. You know, the camo, you got the American hat. Oh, it's looking a little bit better. There we go. You got the American hat, and you know the deal, $20 plus $5 shipping. Make sure you check those out. We got plenty of
great
available.
stocking stuffers for Christmas.
Yes. And speaking of stocking stuffers, we got stickers. Small ones, $2. Big ones, $3. You know the deal there. We got plenty of that. And then the shirts, you know the deal. $20, $5 shipping, 5 out of 5 stars. Still available, limited edition XL shirt. So make sure you check that out. Shout out to W2 Performance, Will Rattel, and check them out at www.w2performance.com. Thank you to National Graphic Crown Rental, Tyler Knutson for the stickers. Make sure you check out the victorious P.O.D. with Tyler Hermann, Jack Vickers, of all your fantasy football needs. Make sure you check out our guy at TLS Performance, Troy Stoudemire Jr., and make sure you check out Popcorn Bucket List, Nick Dahlhoff, Ryne Myhrberg, and Omni Entertainment. So make sure you check those guys out. Voldy, I know this is a little, I wouldn't say too far out, but I mark your calendars.
Yes.
We're approaching season 5.
Wow. Five time.
Season 5.
5 time.
So,
5 time.
Again, the Zony Awards will be upon us as well. So there's a lot on the line. Coming up. Also, don't forget that the Super Bowl special will be coming up too.
Yes.
So keep in mind with that. And then we got some other things along the way. So
we got
be
some
checking
merch
it
in the
out
works, people.
Yep. Checking it on the socials, medias, and as well as the shows that we do here live. So
yes, sir.
That's going to do it for episode 172. Another great show as always, and we'll be back with more. Hopefully the Vikings will be. Hopefully we'll get you ready for that game. The Wolves are playing well. And then let's get to some hockey. Let's get those Wild back in and rolling again. Let's go. So, anywho, as always, remember, folks, keep in the zone.
Hello.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.